So how did that change you? What did that do? What did you learn there?
I just prefer feeling like good.
Omega-6, then you don't need this omega-3 benefit.
So you could, realistically die by eating polar bear liver.
You're not doing chest and doing triceps, you're actually doing chest.
Very much depends on what kind of person you are.
You've done a bit of intermittent, you've done that. What was the next sort of?
So you can have dairy, you can have eggs, you can have fish, you can have beef.
Like caffeine or tea or coffee or tea or other things?
Yeah, my life is better with caffeine in it.
Okay, welcome to another episode of LifeCast. Today I have very special guest, Sama, who is a personal trainer, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his fitness journey. So Sama, welcome first to the channel.
Thank you.
How did you get started in fitness? When did you start first, and then how did you start? What was your reason for getting into fitness? Training,
I would probably just say to improve my confidence.
Okay. Did you play sports at the beginning? Did you go into sports or straight into training?
No, not remotely.
Okay.
I was like your stereotypical nerd, if anything.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't say that looking at you, but go on.
Yeah, I just loved my video games and that was it. Just a bit of a waster, if anything. Yeah, and I was like midway through my degree in university. And at that point, I just figured that the degree was going nowhere. And I might as well just start diversifying.
So what were you studying?
Creative writing and journalism.
Oh, okay. I won't say anything.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah, it was a terrible idea. I definitely needed some better parenting at that point to slap me around the head. And
so did you not train until that point then? Were you not sporty or training?
No, not remotely.
So video games just to study? Okay.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I was still relatively muscular. So people did assume I'd been to the gym, but yeah, been zero. And so the only thing genetics. I can think about is maybe it's just all the... maybe all the cricket I basically played as a kid in Sri Lanka might have ended up just causing...
So you did have some sporting...
Maybe the bats were heavy.
Probably.
Yeah.
So you had some sporting background, so you did have...
Yeah, I wouldn't call it sporting. It was very much just kicking around with my friends at the back. Yeah.
But it is a sport.
Yeah. It's just it wasn't even with a proper ball. It was with a tennis ball.
Oh, okay. So you brought up in Sri Lanka first? Before you came, and what age did you come to the UK?
I was 14 when I came over here.
Oh, okay. So you grew up a little bit in Sri Lanka, went to school in Sri Lanka as well? Okay.
Yeah.
And then moved over here? Okay. And then here went into school, but didn't get into it then, or did you not want to go into?
No, I basically just went straight into video games when I got here.
Ah, okay. No problem. And so then you've only got started. So what age did you get started in training? So midway through degree, about 18, 19, 20?
Yeah, probably about 19. Yeah.
It's quite late starting.
Very late for me, yeah.
Quite an impressive physique for that starting time. So then you're in university. So you got to your degree course, you thought, this isn't really going anywhere. So what triggered the thing to go?
It was just the fact that I just had a lot of free time. So during my degree, I was maybe doing 5 hours of lectures a week. So it was just
these arts degrees, they're always, you've got plenty of time.
I was missing most of those lectures anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at that point, I just figured I need to do something with my time.
Okay.
So got into the gym.
Gym in university or gym local or?
I tried the gym university for a year, but it was just completely hopeless. It's tiny, so didn't get into that. So the first year was basically wasted, and it was only in the second year when I joined the Total Fitness.
But did you have friends who train, or did you just go into it yourself?
No, I just did it myself. Just stuck around the machines for a few months, and eventually, for whatever reason, a personal trainer over there, basically, became friendly with me, and then we started training together. I picked up quite a lot of stuff. Okay, because that's what I was going to say. How did you learn how to do? Yeah.
So,
So at that point, I just picked up quite a lot of stuff from him.
Okie dokie. And then how did that evolve? So you've started training. Did you learn about diet at that point, or was it just the training, or?
Yeah, I mean, the diet was very basic at that point, so it's massively different to what I do now. So it was very much...
Then. What diet did you start on?
Just a case of just getting the protein in. So, just chicken, rice, maybe
the
just throwing in, throwing in some broccoli here and there just to stay healthy.
Okay.
So it was.
And did you work out macros? Was it based on calories or just
a case? Just a case, because I was all about just trying to build as much muscle as possible. So I would just try and increase the calories by just throwing in whatever. So in a lot of cases, I would just throw in mass gainer shakes.
Okay.
Just blend a bunch of peanut butter and oats and yogurt together.
So just to bulk up, basically. So just get as many calories, but as reasonably healthy as you can do. And
yeah, I wasn't too focused on the health. I was just focused on getting in the calories.
Okay.
So it was like a bit of a dirty bulk.
But before you started that, were you into eating a lot, or was it just, what kind of diet did you have before that? Was it still
before that? It wasn't any sort of diet. It was just whatever was available. Yeah. So a lot of junk food.
So was it a shock to the system to become disciplined and have a proper diet, or was it just because you're getting calories, it was just fun because you could eat as much as you want and train?
Yeah, it wasn't too different to the system, because to be honest with you, I don't think even in terms of like the healthiness of the food, I don't think it changed much. It was quite bad before, and even when I basically changed the diet, it was still like in hindsight a lot of foods I would be eating now.
Okay.
So I was basically quite inflamed before, and I was still inflamed afterwards. I just managed to add muscle at the same time.
But you did get bigger, so
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it did have some good effect. Okay. And then you're a personal trainer now. So did you drop the degree or get the degree done, or did you change course?
I got the degree done. Yeah. But I got to the end of the degree and I realized that creative writing and a journalism degree basically leads you to nothing.
Not too many places.
So even when I was looking around, all I could find was like some copywriting jobs, and maybe I could take it for a master's in like Cardiff, but I just figured at that point I wasn't particularly motivated, to pursue either like journalism or creative writing, so I just left it there.
Okay.
At that point, and during the third year, I'd realized that I needed to start looking somewhere else, and because I went to the gym, I like being in the gym, and I feel like I was doing quite well, I decided I would basically go through a level 3 personal training course.
Okay. And then just stayed on that and evolved that as you've gone along. Okay. And then you got your dirty bulk training. So how did that change? Because your first year was basically, you just went on the machines in university gym. So that was just what typical newbies do. You do the bit, you see the machine, you watch a bit of what somebody else does and do.
And whatever you do at the beginning, it's going to work somewhat.
Yeah, because you're doing nothing to something. Okay.
Yeah, especially at my age, so it'd have been perfect for
So how did you learn in that first bit? Because did you just watch what other people did? Did you read up on it or YouTube it or whatever it is, read books?
A lot of reading up, yeah.
Okay, who were your people?
Basically just going on YouTube, going on like bodybuilding.com when that used to be a thing, and then checking out like different exercises, bring them into it. Yeah, again, just looking back at it, like my training wasn't particularly...
Well, hindsight is wonderful.
It was It was just like basically about your standard like bodybuilding training where you're just trying to get like a killer pump and just basically take everything to failure.
Or did you do splits from the beginning or
splits? Yeah.
What sort of split did you start with?
I think I was doing basically your standard bodybuilding split. So it'd be like chest and biceps, back.
Chest, back, legs. With the
small and then just throw in like an upper body day here and there just to basically just get the best pump.
Okie dokie. And then your diet was more bulk, so just to put on muscle. So what sort of weight were you when you started? And what
75 kilos.
Okay, and how tall are you roughly?
5'11".
Okay, so that's not a bad weight for that.
You can run me up to 6 foot though.
Yeah, okay. So 75 kilos and 6 foot. Okay, so that's a little bit light. So you're probably fairly slim, but it's not too slim. That's not a bad weight.
It was weird because I was like had a little bit of muscle, but at the same time I was like a little bit podgy as well.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't skinny fat, but there was definitely some fat going on there.
Okay, so after your first year, do you know what you sort of got to?
I got up to about 85.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it was a big bulk, and there would have been a lot of fat in there. Some muscle, but a lot of fat. Yeah.
But it's still a decent going. And then second year you've got to become friends with a personal trainer who's helped. So how did that change you? What did that do? What did you learn there?
Yeah, it just meant that I started dabbling more into the free weights.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just basically just focused on like increasing the intensity.
So pushing
harder and harder in the gym.
Change a split or just do the same sort of split, but just better exercises?
Yeah, a lot of the same stuff. Just definitely better exercises. But also the key thing was just improving the intensity.
Okay, so pushing yourself a bit more, not just going like some people go, they do the bits, but they're not really
like most people do. Yeah,
that's the typical, especially January people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter like say how good your programming is, how good your exercise selection is. If you can't basically push to failure, if you can't basically push for heavier weights, there's no substitute for intensity in the gym.
Okay, is it just weights though? Can you do it with volume? Can you do it with other? It's intensity in all the things, like the number of reps. You do the sets. You do the volume as well as like.
Very good question because there's like all these different types of intensity. So by intensity, I just mean like, so two things: intensity of like the load on the bar. So by increasing the intensity, you have to increase the load, and also the intensity of pushing to failure.
Okay.
So those will always be like the two things that really like push for muscle growth. Yeah.
Okay. So help that. Did the personal trainer give you any guidelines on like the diet as well, and or supplements and other things, or was it mainly they looked at it and went, yeah, you've got good potential here, but do this, this will help?
Yeah, if anything, I would say the diet got worse because for him, it was a big thing to have like cheat days.
Oh, okay.
So then like the weekend became just this big like celebration where we would just, celebrate all the hard work by just like slamming the body. Slamming the body with as many like toxins as it can handle.
Okay.
So that became a thing, and that became a thing that I couldn't like say pull myself away from for like years afterwards.
Okay, doke.
So not the best.
Not the best thing. Okay. So they helped with the exercise, but sort of messed up the diet a little bit. So what did you get in that second year? Would you say you're still growing, or was it better quality muscle? Was it still just bulking up, or?
Yeah, it continued to grow, like threw in a few cuts there as well. Yeah, and then to be honest, from that point I just continued building.
So what did you change for cuts?
So
cuts, bulking. It was
literally
at that point,
just,
you were just dirty bulking. You were just getting in calories. So what did you do for cutting? Just reducing.
Literally just dropping calories. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very basic at that point.
Oh, okay. All right. And then you've learned from the personal trainer. Then how from that level did you progress? Because you've done did you do the personal training course around?
Yeah. So it would have been probably about like maybe 2.5 years after I started training. That's when I became a trainer.
Okay. Yeah. So you became a trainer yourself then? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And even at that point, like my diet would have been pretty basic. Training would have been pretty basic. So yeah, I was very much like still green at that point, definitely when it came to coaching. So it took some time, took some years to like carve things up from there.
Personal training course, was it any better training?
It's nothing. Yeah, I mean,
or is it just dealing with your like clients?
Yeah, I mean, I'll continue to say that like a personal training course is like completely useless. It's just something that gets your foot in the door. So if you were spending like say $3,000 to basically get one of these courses, then it would be a bit of a waste of money because you wouldn't be retaining anything that you'd basically learn across that course, because it comes down to still getting your own identity. Yeah. Like carving your own niche, which you're not going to get from that course.
Okay, so it's just basics. It's just basic door.
Yeah, very basic anatomy that you're not going to, like, no client is going to need to know.
Okay, Doug. So you got into that. So you did that. So that didn't really help with your what you were doing in training. So then how have you evolved that? Should we go through the steps of how you've moved on from that? What was the next thing you learned or improved, or you say the big jump you made in your training and or diet and everything else?
Yeah, I would say if anything, like the next big evolution would have been when I started stepping into intermittent fasting.
Oh, okay.
So that's when I actually started
how
thinking.
How did you learn that?
So
because were you still reading up on things and learning and YouTubing?
Yeah, I was always reading and learning.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was always a thing for me.
So the nerd helps with that.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
But it's a good thing.
Yeah, it was only like, say, a few years into like personal training when I started thinking about maybe just trying out some intermittent fasting, because it was getting sold as this like amazing, kind of like way to lose fat, as like burn belly fat. And it's only by doing that I realized like how terrible my breakfasts were. Okay. Because I was just slamming like 300 grams of oats, so 300 grams of dry oats. So every single morning, and that would, it would basically be like 2,000 calories all put together. So it was great for the bulk, but it was terrible for my body. Yeah. So by actually doing the intermittent fasting, I actually learnt what it was like to actually have energy in the mornings.
So did you experiment with the timings on that, or did you just start like, is there 16:8 is sort of the standard, isn't it? Yeah. 16, and then but there's variations. So what did you?
Yeah, I just started off with 16, and then I got one of those fasting apps where you're just trying to track it and just push it a little bit further, so you get a little bit competitive. So I managed to say push it up to 18 and then 20, and I was even doing like one meal a day at that point, which would be like 23 hours.
But did you still get the requisite amount of? Because I presume you're still training and still wanting to grow. So do you just fit all that amount of not calories but macros and stuff in? Were you macroing at that time, or were you still caloring?
Yeah, I was always macroing. Yeah. Okay. So that would have been specifically for fat loss. So that would have been during one of my cuts.
Oh, when you're cutting. Okay.
So at that point, I would have been, still getting like a gram per protein of body weight, but just you bring the calories right down, which I could still reasonably fit inside a meal. Okay. It would just have to be a big meal.
Okay. So you didn't have issues eating a bigger meal or small, because some people find it hard to eat. Because if you eat healthy, like even chicken and rice or whatever it is, it's quite hard to build up calories. Whereas if you go for like whatever, a hamburger or something, or other, you can get, 2,000, 1,500, hamburger meal is about 1,500, 2,000 calories fairly quickly. Whereas if you try and work that out with chicken or gram per protein of weight, it's quite a lot of food. How did that? Because the cheat days were obviously easier than the normal food eating days, definitely. I presume. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, like at that point, fitting all that food into one meal wasn't the best. So that wasn't like...
Okay.
I was definitely having like good improvements in terms of like energy during the morning, but just trying to like say fit, like say 2,000 plus calories in a meal was like still definitely taking its toll. Yeah, which I didn't really realize until I then basically made more shifts in my diet. But in effect, I would have been, feeling good up until like say finishing the fast, and then just feeling like completely run over afterwards because I'd basically just, turned myself into a vegetable.
Yeah, because you're dumping all the calories at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, doke. So you got stuff. So that was when you were cutting. So did you maintain like the intermittent fasting when you were bulking, or did you still?
Yeah, because that's the point where I started running into. I just basically pushed myself into an issue where I'd spend too long cutting.
Okay.
So at this point, like I'm a big believer in just making sure that you're spending as much time as possible in like say a calorie surplus in a bulk mode in order to maximize muscle. But at that point, I was just basically cutting like for a good portion of the year, like most of the year.
Ego and look, or just
just trying to get as shredded as possible.
Okay.
Because vanity was the thing that pushed me into like bodybuilding in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems to be a common theme.
Very common.
Come across.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've done that bit, but were you still having the cheat days at that point?
Still having the cheat days, yeah.
Or cheat weekends or whatever it was.
Yeah. It was like as soon as like Saturday came around, then the clock would just start ticking and it wouldn't stop until Sunday. And I would just try and fit as much as possible.
Of anything? Like
of anything.
Just the normal stuff,
anything that crossed my mind.
Okay.
So it would just basically get to like, I'd work a little bit on Saturday, and as soon as that was over, I'd just head to like the supermarket and just grab a cheesecake, an entire cheesecake. Had basically donuts, chocolate,
so you went proper
cereal.
On the fast carbs.
It would be serious.
I thought you were going to say like pizza and other stuff, which is still
not great. It was just pure
just sugar rush.
Yeah, pure sugar and fat.
Is that because you've cut it out of the week?
I mean, it just meant that I was just fixating on it. It was my reward, but my body was obviously still like desperate for it.
Okay.
So I'd be thinking about that during the week, and the fact that I was trying to cut like for across the year meant that I was also just stressed,
so you're stretching it out.
Hungry.
You're pushing it quite a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of size were you at this point in terms of weightish?
Probably like around 85 because I'd been like cutting for a bit too long.
But lean 85.
Yeah,
now,
so it's kind of swinging back and forth between like 85 and 90.
Okay, doke. And what sort of body fat percentage then if you're cutting all year?
Yeah, not that low. Yeah, I was trying to get lower. So I would probably say around like, 12%.
Okay.
So it wasn't
Which is not bad, but it's not like ripped.
Yeah,
like
it wasn't what I was looking for.
Okay, and then so you've got to that point, so you've learned intermittent fasting, so you've got into that, but you're still doing the cheat days and the other things, and quite a lot of fast sugar cheat days, which probably ain't helping to get that 12 down. So what was your next step of evolution of training? What did you pick up next?
My next step was just starting to wonder, maybe I wasn't meant to be feeling like completely run down after every meal.
Yeah, okay.
So then I just thought, why not just take the carbs down a bit further? So the carbs at that point would have been like still like sky high, especially on the weekend, but even during the week, they'd be like, say, 300 plus grams.
But that's following the traditional sort of method of getting the slow carbs to fuel your workouts based on that methodology?
Okay. Yeah, I was still very much a sugar burner.
Okay, yeah.
Which is why I needed the sugar on the weekend to like make up for like...
Top of the cravings.
Yeah, and just make up for all the basically the deficit that I'd basically, created over the week.
Okay.
I would just ruin that over the weekend.
Okie doke.
So the next step was just to try and lower the carbs further.
During the week? Okay. And you did that or you didn't do that?
Yeah. So I brought
Successful?
I brought it down. I didn't bring it down to like ketogenic levels, but I brought it down to like 100 grams. And that's basically, and just went for like slower carbs. So slower carbs is in higher fiber carbs.
Okay.
Like chickpeas.
Okay. So you were changing, so you were evolving what it is, where the carbs come from. What did you replace the calories that you're dropping from that though? Because if you're going from like 300 to 100, that's quite a...
Yeah, that's actually the point when I switched from chicken to beef.
Okay.
So I went from like chicken breast, which is obviously like devoid of fat, to beef mince.
To add in the fat to balance
which was
out
like, about like 20% fat.
Okie doke.
So the carbs got replaced by the fat.
Okie doke. And then also like the red meats have a bit more of like the sort of additional nutrients and stuff in. Because
red meat. Yeah, red meat has like 3 times the nutrients that chicken does. So
did you notice an effect with that? Or did you, well, you probably didn't think about it at that point. Other than
I didn't think about it at that point, yeah.
Okay.
I was just steadily feeling better and better.
Okay.
But I didn't just, at that point, I hadn't like reverse engineered anything.
Okay.
So I just kind of went with the flow. But yeah, the swapping beef for chicken was a huge thing.
Okay.
And I haven't really touched chicken since.
Okay, so you've continued that one. But you've noticed that, well, obviously you've already got the fat, lowering the carbs and the fat, increasing the fat benefit, but there's also the nutritional benefit. But that was just a side benefit. That wasn't the planned benefit at the beginning. Okay.
Wasn't the plan now.
No, but it's still good. It's still good. Those things are the best. Okay, doke. So you evolved your diet. Then training, did you still change, or are you still doing the same sort of?
Very much, yeah, the same thing.
But just pushing the intensities.
Pushing the intensity, but like the whole time I'd been training at that point, I'd still been a bit too focused on just volume training.
Okay.
Because again, it was that stereotypical bodybuilding style where you're just trying to like just ruin yourself every session.
Okay.
Just like leave everything out on the gym floor and just make sure you're just like fully pumped up.
Training to failure on everything.
Yeah, just make sure you can't take your top off at the end of the session.
Oh, okay.
Like that was
typical.
That was a badge of honor, yeah. And then like say making sure you were sore the next day.
Were you doing any cardio? Or
yeah, very little.
Just warm up or cool down or whatever?
Never been a cardio guy.
Okay.
I tried cardio once, like in 2015, like that was right at the beginning.
Okay.
And that was when I just decided to do a half marathon. But then just because it ended up going very poorly, and I ended up walking half of it because I'd had a bowl of muesli straight beforehand, which wasn't a good idea. And then I ended up throwing up in a Starbucks afterwards.
Okay.
And that was the last time I did serious cardio.
Okay. I can understand why you stopped.
Yeah, it's a soft spot. I realized it just wasn't for me.
Okay, so, but obviously bodybuilding is good. You're pushing muscles, but you're also pushing like your heart and other things and stuff. So do you do anything for that? Or is that with the volume, you're getting enough of a like fitness workouts, if you mean, or is that not something you're focused on?
Not something I'm focused on, but as it is, I get plenty of steps during the day as it, say 15 plus, 15 plus thousand a day. But actually doing cardio is like something I'm trying to push into a bit more this year.
I wasn't pushing. I was just, I'm intrigued.
No,
I'm
but
asking.
I do need to.
That's why. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's fine and young, because how old are you now? About 30?
30.
20? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, you didn't have to worry about it, but you will have to start.
I will, yeah. I'd rather do it I'd rather preempt it than have to salvage.
You've still got time, but yeah, I think for longer life, it's probably better to have 100%. A little bit.
I totally agree.
Okay, so you're at the point where, so you've changed chicken for beef, which has got for the fat content, but you've got additional benefits. You've reduced the carbs into slower.
Swapped like rice and pasta for chickpeas.
Okay, Doug. And you still having the cheat days as bad as before, or did you try and reduce that down as well, the fast carbs, or did you manage to?
I was still having cheat days, but they were just becoming a bit more
sensible,
yeah.
Okay. And was that because you've got the fats and the things coming in, so you didn't crave it, or were you were mentally trying yourself not to do it?
I was just starting to question whether I should feel miserable over the weekends. So
it made you feel miserable, all the sugar intake.
Naturally, yeah. So I was starting to just whittle down.
Okay.
Yeah, and just tone it down a little bit. But it was still very much there. So I was still having cheat meals.
Okay. But you were starting to think, well, I need to feel a bit better here, so I'm cutting it down. Okay, so it's slowly evolving into it. Okay, and then the next, so you've done a bit of intermittent. You've done that. What was the next sort of step
So the next
where you've changed?
Yeah, so the next step would have taken place in 2020.
Okay.
So that was like during COVID, so during the lockdown, because, I wasn't doing anything at that point. So I thought might as well just knuckle down on the diet. And I think, I watched a Joe Rogan episode where he was interviewing Dr. Agostino, who's basically basically like a keto scientist.
Okay.
So very much like top of the range. And I just thought might as well just commit to it because I was already having like 100 grams of carbs a day.
Okay.
So it was just logical just to whittle it down all the way. So take it below 50 grams, even like 30 grams, and just see what ketosis was all about.
Okay. So you went into, so the ketogenic diet was the next step. Okay. So what was his philosophy? What did you pick up from it?
Yeah, so
you've reduced the carbs, but was the thing? So you were already doing beef, so you got the sort of protein and fat. Did you increase the protein level or?
No, the protein was like still pretty constant. So the only thing that changed was simply taking the carbs down further. Because dropping the carbs down from 100 grams wouldn't have been a big change in calories.
The big one would have been when you went to 300 to 100.
It was just a case of like reducing the carbs a bit more and increasing the vegetables in its place.
Oh, okay.
And so that brought me to keto. Yeah. So I did that for about 4-5 months over the lockdown.
What effect did you notice?
Oh, it was big. Yeah, that was
in terms of.
Just in terms of energy. In terms of also the biggest one that I noticed was that it like massively cut down on anxiety. And that was something I'd been like battling with, well, at least. And
it's not what I would have expected. Energy, yeah, obviously, because I think you have the dip, isn't it? And then when you get used to it, your body goes up. A lot of people say that. Anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically been present ever since I came to the UK.
Oh, okay.
So
I know the weather's terrible. I apologize.
Yeah. No, I just blame high school for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the weather.
And the weather.
Well, the lack of weather, lack of real weather. We don't have cold, we don't have hot. It's just meh all the way through.
Yeah, that wouldn't have helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
you don't get enough vitamin D. Okay. So you helped with that. So you think that's like because you were, but did you lose like body fat and increase?
I lost a lot of weight, too much weight.
Oh, okay.
Because I tried to incorporate ketosis with 1 meal a day.
Oh, okay.
I was just pushing, And
pushing it.
Yeah, I just became competitive. So I just ended up pushing it as far as I could. And I was getting to the point where I'd feel like cold, even like sweaty towards the end of the fast. And then the first meal, it didn't matter how big the first meal was, I'd still feel ravenous afterwards.
Okay.
So I took it to the brink. I cut down from like maybe 90 kilos at the beginning of the cut, so just right at the beginning of the lockdown, to around 78, which is a big drop.
But so you were trying to lose, but at this point were you trying to get more ripped? I presume is the normal.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna be able to like hold on to my muscle because I didn't have the equipment at home. I just had resistance bands.
Oh, okay.
So I thought I might as well, just accept that the muscles are gonna go, keep what I can, and just see how ripped I can get. So you just, maybe see what a six pack looks like. And I still didn't get there.
I'll remember the days.
Yes.
I had one of those. Okay. So, because you wouldn't be able to train because all the gyms and stuff were closed. So, okay. So you've gone down there. And then you just stuck to that? You did that for 4 to 5 months? Or did you realize, wait a minute, I'm going too small here, or I need to do something else? Or
yeah, I literally took that until like maybe a couple of weeks before the end of the lockdown.
So about a year and a half or whatever? It's quite a
while. I was in the first lockdown, so it was about, say 5-6 months.
5-6 months, okay. And then you could manage to get back into the gym? Or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got back into it. And like that was the point where I started reverse engineering, what the diet was doing, because I started to feel like remarkably better, just by ketosis. So at that point, that's when I started doing more deep dives into the effects of
what it's doing.
Effects of ketosis, the effects of meat, and then just try and piece things together. And that just naturally led me to think, okay, I might as well just drop the vegetables.
Okay.
Because that was the only thing basically keeping me from just going carnivore.
Okay. So now you're on the pure carnivore.
Yeah, so basically it was at the end of that lockdown where I just stepped into carnivore instead.
Okay. And what's that then for those who don't know?
Yeah, literally you can do beef and salt, but it's any animal product.
Okay.
So you can have dairy, you can have eggs, you can have fish, you can have beef.
Just with salt and water?
Just with salt and water, and that's it.
Okay.
Very, very simple.
And how's that worked for you?
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
I mean, obviously it's done something. You don't look like you're 75 or 78 kilos.
It definitely helped me like regain muscle.
Okay.
Because it just helped me just get my appetite back, and then I wasn't, obsessed with trying to push the fasts anymore. So I just pulled straight out of that.
Did you, have you lost the cheat days, or do you still do?
No more cheat days.
When did you stop that?
I stopped it when I started carnivore.
Okay. So as you come out the lockdown.
It was just incompatible with carnivore. Because the slight issue with cleaning up the diet that much is that it does mean that you no longer have like that mild tolerance for these foods, for the junk foods.
Okay.
So you can't really deal with the inflammation anymore. So you just have to just stay off of them.
Because your body just adapted, so it doesn't like...
Yeah, your body just... the reactions is stronger.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a pill I was happy to swallow.
Okay, but did you have any issues with that? like, cold turkey or anything of getting off the cheat days, or did you just feel that good on the carnivore that you thought, well, actually, I don't really feel like that?
Yeah, it wasn't a big issue for me because the good thing was because I'd done ketosis for about 5 months at that point.
Okay.
I was very much attuned because there's not much difference between the fuel systems that you use in ketosis and carnivore. Okay. Both of them are going to be running off fats. Both of them are going to be running off ketones. So it was literally just like the last 5%.
Okay, so if somebody was doing, that's a step. So you've basically stepped gradually through it. You've got to you've sort of worked out the ketogenic one and then just gone to the natural evolution of that to the next step.
Yeah, it was a logical process just from like your usual, like, high carb bodybuilding diet with plenty of cheat days to then, going intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting would basically put you in a fat burning state.
Yeah.
Might even be some ketones involved there. And then from there, pulling into low carbs, which is alongside intermittent fasting, and then ketosis, and then finally carnivore. So it was just a case of just making the next step each time.
Okay.
Over like, say 2-3 years.
So if somebody's on a normal diet, do you think they could just switch?
You would definitely feel a lot more of the side effects.
Okay.
It'd be pretty challenging.
So it's better to do it gradually and step through those things, you think?
Very much depends on what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Because...
in terms of discipline, or do you mean in terms of...
In terms of how your relationship to food is.
Okay.
So, because I firmly believe that sugar addiction is a real thing.
Yeah. I would say that's true. Yeah,
there's plenty of evidence that, like fructose in particular will activate like your dopamine and your opioid receptors, much like cocaine would.
Yeah.
So it's not saying it's the level of cocaine, but it's definitely it's basically a substance you can be addicted to. Yeah, I would compare it with nicotine and caffeine.
Okay. Yeah.
So if someone had, those kind of addiction wirings regarding sugar, simply cutting it out might be quite challenging, but it would be better than trying to moderate.
Okay.
So if someone was addicted, you'd be better off to abstain than moderate.
Okay, so
it depends on the person.
Cold turkey.
Yeah.
Okay. But then, they need to stick to it, isn't it? And how long do you think it takes for them to come out then? In like a month or 2 months, or...
Yeah, so
obviously it depends on person to person. But...
Yeah. Like, for example, like this month, we're doing World Carnivore Month.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like 30 days, through January, where you're just trying to eat, nothing but animal products. So that is often enough to just basically experience the benefits of carnivore. But I would always like recommend people take it further, because there's a lot of things that would then take longer to really try and like adapt to and get the best out of, like your mitochondria, like, trying to like say get rid of like the polyunsaturated fats, which are inflammatory in your fat stores. So in that case, you're looking more at like taking it 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, basically, so you can detoxify everything
so like
out.
The 30 days is just a good entry level. So if you don't feel,
that's a try before you buy.
Yeah, if you don't feel the benefits within 30 days, you can like clock off.
Okay.
But if you're feeling the benefits, you might as well keep going.
Okay, and then push it along and do it. And then now you do that like your year round.
Yeah, so I've been doing it for like 3.5 years at this point.
So say if you go out for food, like a restaurant or somewhere, you're invited out, what do you do then? You just order?
Yeah, I'll just have
and whatever
just steak. And if I have if it's there's no steak available, I can always just have like a burger and just throw away the buns.
Okay. So you still stick to it. You just order what it is, but
yeah, and I'm not like say overly specific in terms of like trying to be like completely carnivore. Like I'm not going to be the person that goes to a restaurant and makes sure they're not cooking it in seed oils. So I can take the hit.
That one I would do.
Yeah.
I think you should. But that's probably a separate conversation. Seed oils and other things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I'm totally against them, but I wouldn't want to be that guy.
That's this guy.
Yeah, that's you.
The annoying one. Where did you cook that in? Yes. Are you sure? Did you do it in the right? Yeah. Anyway, separate conversation. Okay, but then like you skip dessert, or you have? Or
skip dessert.
Okay.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like I just prefer feeling like good. I just prefer feeling alert. I prefer not feeling anxious, not having brain fog. So it's an easy decision to make.
Okay, so that's good. And how long? So how long have you been doing that now? About 2 years?
3.5 years now. 3.5 years.
That's good going then. It's sticking at it. So what weight are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
About 96, 97. So it's a long way up from like 78. That would have been my weight when I started the diet, started carnivore.
So when you came out of lockdown, so in 3.5 years, you've gone up from 78 to 96.
Yeah. So those,
percentage approximately are you, Matt?
I would say probably put me at a similar percentage, about 15%.
Body fat?
Yeah. Yeah. People often like, the problem is like people just don't have an idea of what like body fat percentages are meant to be, so they think like say, like 5% is a realistic number that you can attain.
No, well, I wouldn't say that's
and
realistic.
even sub 10%. Some people might think that's a number you can kind of hold on to, which is like, impossible.
Okay.
Like it'll very much be something that you just step into at the end of a diet, and then you just feel like, you feel rubbish, so you have to pull yourself out at some point.
Okay.
So between like the 12 and 15%, I would say is like
optimal.
It's the number that you can hold on to, across the year.
So obviously you look big, you look lean, but you're not like, there's no point being ridiculous and going like these people who try and do 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever.
No.
There's no point.
No,
that's not you now.
Yeah, because the diet is still about me feeling good.
Okay.
Otherwise, I might just decide, if I just wanted to build as much muscle as possible, then it might make sense to add carbs because it'll just be easier to overeat on, and there'll be like a greater insulin response. So that will help, but I won't feel as good.
You won't feel as good. So now you're happy with where you are, or do you still look at them and go, I want to be bigger there or do something, or are you like
I always want to be
happy where?
I'm confident, but I'm always going to want to be bigger and stronger because I don't believe in maintenance.
Okay.
Because once you basically think about maintaining, then you start backsliding because you lose like whatever kind of motivation, drive that you had to get you there in the first place.
So you still push on every time you train, you're still pushing the intensity?
Yeah, and I push more and more. So I'm always trying to step up my game.
Okay, cool. All right, let's supplements. Should we do a bit on that?
Supplements, yeah. So that's the funny thing with the carnivore. It's basically a diet where you don't need supplements.
Okay.
There might be situations where, like someone might be just completely deficient in a particular, vitamin, and then, you can basically add it in. And there's, definitely if we talk about electrolytes, it's definitely worthwhile like adding in electrolytes, during the adaptation period and like say if you're doing hard training.
Okay.
But beyond that, supplements are unnecessary.
Because you're getting everything from the red meat and the other things, the nutrition value of that side. With the red meat, do you eat like livers and stuff like that as well? Or
I did at the beginning. And liver is what I would consider a supplement.
Okay.
But the problem is if you end up relying on it and just like having it weekly, then you're going to potentially run into issues like with hypervitaminosis. And that can it's basically just having like too much vitamin A.
Okay.
Because liver is just a very potent store of vitamin A. Like, for example, polar bear is toxic because of the amount of vitamin A in it.
Oh, okay.
So you could, realistically die by eating polar bear liver. So I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. I wasn't planning on to, but anyway, it's an interesting fact.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Okay, so you don't really need supplements because you get most of the nutrition, unless there's like you have a genetic deficiency or family history deficiency or something. Okay. In terms of like BCAAs, protein,
all in the meat.
Shakes, you've got enough.
Yeah, I get more than like 300 grams a day of protein from meat. So and meat is a very like high source of BCAA.
Okay. So you're getting enough protein and stuff you don't need. Electrolytes, why do we... Well, I know why we need it, but I'll ask anyway. Why do we need the electrolytes?
So like electrolytes, sodium in particular, those are kind of just basically the ingredients that just keep the body moving around.
So it's like sodium, potassium, what is it? Like it's magnesium stops you getting cramps, isn't it? Another thing.
Yeah, they keep you hydrated.
Okay.
They keep the blood pressure basically running optimally. So it's just something you want to be keeping on an even keel. So you don't really be erring on like too high or too low. But the thing is, it's much easier to basically focus on just staying on the high side because then your body can simply flush out any, extras. Whereas you can't do it as well if you're too low.
If you're too low, okay. So you just keep top. That just keeps your body running in optimal flow, and you get enough from enough protein, enough. So it's not bad then. So you save on all that. So the extra bit you got to spend on the meat you're saving on. You don't have to add all the extra.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it an expensive diet because like sure, if you just have ribeyes and you're having like 3 pounds of ribeyes a day, then maybe the cost can run up. Yeah, but if you're just having ground beef,
then it's not hugely expensive. Okay, it's not bad. So it is accessible to anybody who wants to do it if they really want to, because but then you wouldn't be wasting the money on all this fast food and all the other stuff, which is not obviously optimized cost.
Yeah, and I would also argue that you'll save on healthcare at the same time. So
yeah, because you feel better. So do you get colds and stuff with it then, or is it fairly?
Unfortunately, because of the gym I work in, I end up picking it up.
Yeah, you're in touch with so many people.
It's just a petri dish.
Yeah.
So I always run into it, but I'm very good at dealing with it.
Okay.
So I don't end up having to take off days.
So what do you do, if you mind me asking?
If I'm ill, I just like double up on the cold showers. So just use that to just keep
But does it knock you down, or you just get like a mild one?
It's pretty mild. Yeah.
So you don't get like knocked down like some people who are just complete infit. Yeah. Okay. So you just get a bit. You just do, and then do you lower your intensity of training if you've got something, or do you?
I have no choice, unfortunately. Yeah. So if I'm training, I'll just like go around with the machines and just try and like.
So you won't miss it, but you'll just lower it. Mm-hmm. Just fit it into what your body's telling you. I can do this.
Yeah,
much.
And do less if I need to do less volume, but I'll still just be trying to like push as much as I can because. If anything, like losing out on the intensity in the gym and like losing out on like muscle in the gym will only make the situation worse.
And you'll feel worse anyway mentally because you're thinking, I haven't done this, hasn't it? Or you've skipped it or whatever it is. Okay.
100%.
Okay. And the anxious thing you still have, or is that gone completely now?
I think it's, it's still there.
The weather's still crap.
Yeah. So. That hasn't changed. Yeah. But definitely in terms of dealing with it, I've become a lot better. Mm-hmm. Because it basically used to be immobilizing.
Okay.
And I definitely like...
And now it's just a mild...
Yeah, so it pretty much stopped me from doing anything like social during like the end stages of high school, or let's just call it the entirety of high school, and a good chunk of uni. So I'd call myself like a late bloomer.
Okay. But is that just you're changing culture is sort of the wrong thing? Because I did it, obviously I came here from India, but I was young, I was only 2.5, so I don't remember anything, so it doesn't big affect. Although I did move around in schools and areas, which then it is a bit more difficult. But I think just because you have to do it, you get to do it. Obviously at 14, you're in that age anyway where you're changing from a child into an adult and then moving complete culture difference probably from Sri Lanka to here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I just don't think Sri Lanka is a particularly extroverted culture.
No.
Anyway, so I would even say Sikhs must be just seem more confident in
general. I think we're probably a bit more extroverted.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you are the warrior culture after all, right? So.
Well, I think
coming down from Maharajas.
Come from farmers, isn't it? So.
Warrior farmers.
Well, the warrior farmers, yeah. Well, they evolved and stuff, but I think, what they did was I think they seen the farmers are big because you have to, when before tractors and before things, you have to do all the land. So usually they're the ones they've evolved to be bigger because you've got to do all it. You've got to move them things, you move all the bits. And then the person who was building the army looked up for, all right, where do I get the big 6 foot tall, all these guys who are all, built? The farmers look like a good one, and then decided to convert. So I think there's a bit of choice in that. But yeah, I think, but they have we have quite a lot of, I think, because they're farming, they have a lot of harvest, the sort of culture that goes with it. So there is a lot of community and stuff of it. I think they're a bit more extroverted.
Yeah.
But it's still a shock when you change culture. Like I said, I've grown up here most, so it's not, but I can understand that. But yeah. Okay, so that's eased out. Do you like, in terms of drinking, so obviously you drink water, part of that. Do you like, I don't mean alcohol, I'm not asking. I mean that's a separate conversation. Private offer, like caffeine or tea or coffee or tea or other things?
I unfortunately still have caffeine, yeah. It's one thing I've never been able to give up. And even when I have tried giving it up, I just realized, my life is better with caffeine in it.
Because a lot of people have caffeine. Do you think it's a benefit or a...
I think it's got more... it depends on how it's used. But when it's used properly, as in you don't overdose, as in you don't just dose it across the day and you don't have... you're not basically having it as a nightcap, then it's more positives than negatives.
So you still do coffee and tea, or just coffee or...
Coffee. Yeah. And especially just because it's ketosis as well. If anything, ketosis can have an issue of making you a bit too relaxed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a bit too chill. Which kind of
leads... So the caffeine gives you a little bit of a kick.
Which is why people basically just don't believe I have anxiety, because I just seem too chill.
You'd be chill all the time, yeah.
So if I tell someone I've got anger issues, I told someone the other day, they just didn't believe me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that either. No. Most of the time I see you're a fairly chilled, fairly happy person.
Yeah, but I'm raging on the inside all the time.
Yeah. But it's well controlled.
You
disguise it well.
Yeah, so ketosis is, it's just a bit too chill because of what it does on the brain. It increases your GABA, which is the neurotransmitter that relaxes you.
Okay.
And it decreases glutamate, which is a neurotransmitter that acts as a gas pedal. So it's excitatory. So it just
it's a chill diet.
Yeah, it relaxes you. And I think it has a lot of therapeutic potential benefits for that reason that people really need to start talking about. But in my case, that might mean that I'm a bit, I need a bit more mojo for training, yeah. So I need to be able to get fired up. So caffeine's a good way to do that.
Okay. And then any other things you drink outside of that? So if you don't have BCAAs, you're not putting that in. I don't mean.
Yeah, I have.
I mean, like, electrolytes. Do you put?
Yeah, I have like electrolytes when I'm training.
As like a pre-workout or during?
Just during intra. Training. Yeah, just sip on that during.
Do you
have
pre-workout then? Oh no,
caffeine.
Caffeine is.
That's my pre-workout.
So that gets you going.
I just have a black coffee, and that acts as my pre-workout.
Okay, and then just electrolytes is just to make sure everything's ticking over while you're training. So hydration basically, and keep everything going. So you don't really need more. That's quite good then, isn't it? I thought people still needed supplements on it, but so you don't need to do pre-workout. You can get rid of the BCAA and the protein shakes because you've already got enough from your thing. Multivitamins or anything like that? Fish oil, multivitamin sort of thing? You get
steak
enough
is the best multivitamin there is.
Okay.
Because the whole premise of carnivore is that red meat in particular. So, not chicken, not pork, not eggs. Red meat in particular has all the nutrients that you need.
Oh, okay.
Purely because, it's the food that we evolved over 2.5 million years.
Okay.
So it has all the nutrients that we need.
So it has all the things the body needs.
So you could eat nothing but beef and be perfectly fine.
Okay. That's fine. And then like fish oil and stuff, or no?
Even like red meat has like some omega-3 in it. Okay. And I would also argue that the amount of like omega-3 we need is very low when we're not having lots of omega-6. Because one of the biggest benefits of omega-3 is it counteracts the inflammation that you get from omega-6. So that's a big thing that's like shifted in like the modern diet from like the ancestral diet, is that the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio has just changed drastically. So it used to be
so if you get rid of the bad omega-6, then you don't need this omega-3 benefit because you're not getting that.
Yeah. You can get much more mileage out of lowering omega-6 than raising omega-3. And actually, if you try and raise omega-3, you can definitely run into issues because, and this is something a lot of people don't know, that omega-3 actually has the ability to be more inflammatory than omega-6. Because if you have it as fish oil, just have it in a capsule, then it's already going to be rancid. It's already going to be oxidized. And omega-3 is actually more vulnerable to oxidation than omega-6. So you'll have actually more toxic byproducts. And there's zero chance.
Throw away the capsules.
Well, there's like no chance it's not going to be say oxidized by the time you're able to have it. So like you can get it from fish, and then it'll be better, less likely.
Like salmon and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can have it fresh, but if you just have it in a capsule, then chances are you're doing more harm than good.
Oh, I'll have to throw them away.
Which is unfortunate, yeah.
They're expensive as well. Oh well. Okay. I think we should do another one on those, going into more specifics of these things.
Definitely.
But that's been quite cool. So what else have we got left? I think that's pretty much a good introduction to how you've got there. So in terms of hydration was what we were on. So you have water, obviously. Have a lot of water, or do you like...
Just water. I mean, that's another thing. If you end up having too much water, you just think it's like a mission to try and get... You just end up creating like more dehydration as a result.
And
like
you said, you're flushing it out.
Yeah. So if anything, I just like drink to thirst and just try and sip on it across the day.
So roughly, so there's not an amount, it's just what your body feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be like maybe 2 liters.
Okay, so it's not like these excessive 3, 6, whatever some people do, silly.
No, it's not a large amount.
Okay. So that's mainly the drink. Coffee you just have as like the pick-me-up to keep you going. So it's not like a ridiculous number of, like a pre-workout.
I try not to, yeah.
How many times do you train? Just once a day?
Once a day, maybe like say 5 times a week.
Okay. So you do it in the week and then have your weekend?
I try to.
Off.
Yeah. Sometimes.
But you don't do cheat days, Dad. So your cheat day is just a rest.
Yeah. And I try to have my rest days, but sometimes I just get pulled into workouts. And if I'm already in the gym, which is, 6 days a week, then I often think I might as well while I'm here.
Okay. And then what do you do so the other thing, obviously, when you're young, it doesn't matter so much, or you don't feel it, but the recovery part, you're probably still a bit too young to get heavy recovery problem. But what do you do for that? Or is it just because you're split now, then if you're doing 5 days, it's just separate body parts? Or
Yeah, that's something I didn't mention because I was talking about how at the beginning I was like just committed to volume.
Yeah.
So try and do as much as possible. So just train like your standard, bodybuilder. But then it's only like in the last few years where I started to like really looking into the science of training.
So you've evolved that as well as the diet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just thought, I might as well, because at this point I'm just all about optimizing. So trying to just fix everything in the lifestyle to try and be as efficient as possible so I can feel and look the way I want. So in terms of the training, I just got to the point where I realized that I was just doing too much, and that was definitely costing me in terms of like the progression in my strength.
Okay.
Because I was just trying I was hyper focused on just trying to get my big 3 lifts up, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't really flying. So at that point, I realized that I needed to start whittling down.
Okay.
And bring it back. And then when I looked into the science, I found out that, the amount of like volume that we need, in order to like stimulate muscle growth is actually quite low. And the reason why, because you'll be able to find studies that show that more volume equals more growth. But the problem with that is that they didn't like equate volume as sets taken to failure. They just looked at volume as just sets and reps. Yeah. So the way I would look at volume is simply hard sets, so sets that you take to failure, not every set that you do in the gym. Okay. So when you look at it that way, then you realize that,
So that's the intensity thing again, isn't it? So you're doing it intense rather than... Okay.
Yeah. So if I was training to failure on every single set and I was trying to do like, say, 7 to 8 exercises a session, I would just end up doing too much. And that would definitely cost me in terms of recovery.
Okay.
Whereas if I simply did 4 or 5 exercises and then like did a couple of hard sets per exercise, and that would pretty much be the sweet spot.
Out, but you're getting more benefits of the...
I get more benefits. Because the problem is if you end up going beyond like the point, if you think about it, it's like it's a sweet spot. It's like a bell curve. Okay. So if you go beyond that point, where you've basically got the right amount of like stimulus, if you try and keep doing more sets, more reps, and add more stimulus, you end up creating more muscle damage. And muscle damage isn't something that creates more growth. It's something that actually inhibits growth because the body has to repair the muscle rather than build new muscle tissue.
I've done that a few times.
So if you're sore all the time after workouts, that's an issue.
You're doing something wrong.
But unfortunately, people just see it as like, a badge of honor, a sign that they're basically doing everything they can. So they chase it.
Okay, so you just want to do the right amount to get to the point where you are pushing it, but you're not going over. You're not overtraining then. So
So I've drastically lowered my volume over like the last few years.
Okay, and then so you don't get as much. You don't get like DOMs and stuff, just enough to know that you...
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Okay. But you're regularly training then, so you do Monday to Friday.
Monday to Friday, maybe
and
Saturday.
Other days if you're there. Okay, and then you just do... So what sort of split do you do? Do you just do the usual split, or you've divided it up more?
Yeah, I've gone to like push, pull, legs, and then an upper body, and then legs.
Okay.
So actually, now that I say that, it's 5 days. Yeah. Somewhere around that. I might add in another workout.
Okay. Well, you can just cycle it again, isn't it? But you don't get the issue too much. So you've cut down the volume per se, volume from just the normal traditional word of volume, but still maintain the intensity, but into the normal sets. Okay. And in terms of exercises, or is just...
In terms of exercises...
Exercises are the exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, exercise selection still comes into it.
Okay.
So when you think about, what would basically increase your game in the gym, like pushing to... intensity is always going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So pushing heavy, pushing to failure. And then, not basically overcommitting. That's going to be another one. So not doing too much volume. But then beyond that, picking the right exercises. So, picking an exercise, like let's say you're training chest. You want to pick an exercise that ends up, say, prioritizing the chest so that the chest is the one that's taken to failure. So you pick an exercise that's actually got the chest as like the primary lever.
Okay.
Rather than, say, just scattered
So that's if
across.
you're doing compounds, so make sure you're not doing chest and doing triceps, you're actually doing chest. Okay. Is that technique as well, or is it just...
Technique is huge. Yeah. So it all comes into it. So, you're picking the right exercise is going to be big, but then you'll still want to be able to set yourself up. So you're in like the best position, technique-wise, to execute the set while basically keeping, like, say, in this case, the chest as the primary mover. Yeah. Because you want the chest to fail, you don't want the triceps to fail.
Yeah, unless you're training triceps, yeah. Okay. And then you still focus on the main groups, and then because you good arms and shoulders and stuff as well, or you do... Is it still like mainly chest, back, and legs as the main things you do? Well, you've done a different split. Or do you do specific arm training and other things? Or does that add on to the...
I just add it on because if you... Like, let's say you're doing a chest day, a push day, then by the time you get through the bench, by the time you get through the accessory lifts, like maybe you go onto an incline bench, then the triceps have already been worked quite a bit.
Okay.
So you only need to do like 1 or 2 exercises, 2
just
at most.
Just to finish them off, basically.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I definitely don't think anyone needs to be doing like dedicated arm days because it just ends up being far too much volume for muscles that aren't really good at handling muscle damage. So it's quite easy to overdo it. So if you wanted bigger arms, you wouldn't just go ahead and just trying to like say do
triceps and bicep curls.
Yeah, and then just kind of like just smash yourself like every time. It wouldn't be ideal because I've seen people constantly try that, and it's quite infuriating to watch. Because it's it's just trying the same thing again and again.
No, that's not what you should be doing.
No, it's just too much.
So do you go over and say that, or do you just, is it just like you try?
No, I just look in disapproval in the background because I'd rather not
have the card. Yeah. Look, you need me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I actually like them, then I might go ahead and give them a little bit of advice. Okay. Otherwise, I just let them dig their own grave.
Yeah. Most people aren't going to listen anyway, so it doesn't matter.
They won't. Yeah, that's the problem.
In terms of evolving what you do now in training, you still read and look at techniques. Do you look at because obviously if you're the personal trainer in the gym anyway, you should know more. But do you still watch what other people do and look at what they do, or you do research on YouTube or on other people, bodybuilders? How do you evolve because you're still trying to push and get bigger and stuff, isn't it? So like you said, so how do you evolve that? Where are you learning from? Where are you picking this up from?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just have like a few people, online that I really like their information. So I'll just pick it up here and there. But at this point, I feel like it's just a case of just refining what I'm already doing.
Okay.
So just, I know basically what the fundamental, like, say, cues are to, like, improve a deadlift and improve a bench. And I definitely don't think that I'm going to radically, like, change anything by introducing a new exercise. It's going to be about taking the things I already have and just increasing the intensity.
Okay.
So I don't think, like, variety is the spice of life here.
Yeah, I think mostly you can do it for specific things. I mean, if you go into a bodybuilding show and then they want to do the last like rip of whatever it is, yeah. But I think in general, if you're just building up and getting stronger, it's probably this set exercise they've been used for a while. Obviously, you do evolve them, but that's what it is, isn't it? I think, at least my sort of looking around on it, isn't it? Because if you read loads, and you eventually get back to the same place. It's the bench press, it's your squats.
Yeah, you always go back to the same exercises. Things. Yeah. Whereas at the beginning, first few years of training, I was always just trying to like search up new exercises, find something to just like switch things up, add a bit more to the workout. But yeah, I just ended up like ditching a lot of them, especially exercises that just take way too much hassle, way too much work just setting up in the first place.
Okay. And then in terms of like, because there's a thing that Arnold Schwarzenegger says this, do you just do the same routine, or do you try and, both for yourself and for your clients, do you like shake it up? Because obviously his one was you got to shock the muscle into doing something. You got to do something different, because if you just do the same routine, it goes, I'm prepared for that. I know what's going to happen. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so shocking the muscle into growth is like definitely a bit of a bro science, and Arnie was like a specialist at basically dispensing bro science.
Okay.
So he's always an interesting case. But at the same time, here and there it is good to like switch things up, but not to the point where you're like switching things up every few weeks. We're talking like, you commit to something for like a good, 10, 12 weeks, and then just change the exercise a little bit. But it's not like you just have to flip the script completely and just start with a brand new batch of exercises. Like a bench press is always going to be a bench press. It's always going to be useful. You might be just changing the accessories.
Like
switching, from a close grip bench to like an incline to focus more on the upper chest, and maybe just switching like what you use for the incline. You might use a Smith machine instead of a bench press.
So it's just variation within the same thing. So
it's little tweaks.
And then you could do incline before decline, or you could do whatever it is, do straight bench first, then do, and just tweak them a little bit. So you're just giving your body a little bit of something else to think about, or does that not make sense?
No, that would make sense, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to refine.
Yeah.
And when you're, say, trying to build a muscle, it's going to be whatever basically gets pushed to failure first, that's going to be the one that ends up growing. So if you just do, like, say, a bench press, and only a bench press, then you'll end up getting, one, say, basically your, middle and lower fibers of the chest, like, improving ahead of the upper fibers.
Okay.
So here and there, you do need to kind of switch things up to make sure you get fully rounded. And whatever exercise you do first in the workout is going to be the one that gets the most amount of stimulation, because you go through a workout and you'll get more and more fatigue, more and more central fatigue.
Okay.
And it means that, if you basically do a muscle towards the end, or an exercise towards the end, you'll get less from it.
Okay.
So if you have a weak muscle group, then you'd want to be switching it up and putting it earlier on.
So rotating which way order you do is good, but basically the same sort of workout.
Yeah.
Similar workout.
Again, it's little tweaks.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So the bro science is there, but not quite as they make it. So it's okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's always going to be based on what works. Training to failure has always been a big thing in bro science. But when you actually, the actual science is just about just looking back at what we have been doing and just thinking about whether we can just make little improvements to make it more efficient. And that's what low volume is about. And, there have been some bodybuilders in the past that have actually touched on that. Like Mike Menser he's the classic version. He's actually a guy who ended up taking it too far.
Okay.
So he'd be
getting whatever, so many reps, only 3 reps, 5 reps.
Yeah, and then he might even be doing one workout a week.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It just ends up being a little bit too far. So he had the right idea. He just went a bit crazy towards the end.
I think he was a bit upset that he didn't win the Olympia, didn't he, against Arnold? Arnold still got it back on his the 1981 or whenever he returned. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, but he has some interesting. There are some people who've got some interesting things on there. Okay. I think that's most of our journey, isn't it? What have we done? We've done diet, we've done hydration, we've done the things. I think most of the other topics we can go into on another episode, if you don't mind. We can go into more depth. I think, should we call it there? Thank you very much, Sama. That was
all right.
Extremely interesting. It's a lot of things I didn't know that I've learned. It was very good. I hope the audience has as well. Okay, thank you very much. And then see us, subscribe, give us some feedback and comments. And we'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Doors, I'm a fool for your love.